Hello, here we go. Who better to start Xylazine Friday or Fenty Friday than Trish, whose arms are once again infected. As you can see, we have self-packing here. There's another one down here, and there's another one behind the arm. I believe there's another one up here somewhere. The sad part is these are weeping, as you can see. See, it's weeping while cooking. That's always healthy. This arm is the good arm. I sat and watched this stream from Honest Elk, and I'm quite scared because it's the other arm she's not using. She's really babying it. And that's concerning. There's also a bandage down here on the inside of the wrist. But as you can see, the other arm also has sores. If you're squeamish, turn away. So here's the other arm. And you can see the elbow is quite swollen. And there's the typical pattern of a line of sores. There is absolutely huge swelling on this side of the bicep, and then there's even a sore further up. Mind you, these are all weeping by the end of this live stream. So you can see people are saying it's oozing. You'll see it glisten. Both sides are glistening. That's not bandage, that is drainage coming out. Okay. And you can see she's babying that right arm. But it's also oozing. And you can see how there's a new bruise. It's swollen on the other side and glistening. So, what does it? Is it the fentanyl? No, it's xylazine. Notice how in this picture, this patient from Miami has the same lines of sores. There's a reason for that, because these are injection site wounds. And they get worse, so turn away. I'm not showing any more than these, but this is how bad it gets. It goes full thickness, so all the way down to the bone. And the chat knows it. You would think the wounds should be covered, but who cares what people are eating, right? Hygiene, not a big deal. I'm concerned about that one arm, though, because definitely babying it. So what is xylazine? Xylazine was developed in the 1950s as an anesthetic for humans. And unfortunately, during the trials, patients became way too sedated. Their heart rates plummeted, their blood pressure plummeted, they were hard to bring back up. It's not an opiate, so it failed for humans. But it was appropriate to use in veterinary care because they have different cardiovascular systems and different CNS systems than us. Also, animals can take reversing drugs like yohimbine, which reverses xylazine, which humans cannot. So it became in the 60s a veterinary drug. It's primarily used in horse medicine, sometimes in cattle. It can be mixed with ketamine and other drugs for dogs and cats. They get, of course, smaller amounts. But there are reversal agents for animals. Unfortunately, humans have no reversal for xylazine. It was first detected in 2006 in Maryland and Ohio by overdose patients that came in who did not respond appropriately to Narcan. They tested them and they found fentanyl and other drugs, but there was some component they couldn't figure out. So they started running mass spectrometry tests on their samples, and it was discovered that xylazine had entered the market. It had previously not been known. So it came originally from Puerto Rico, believe it or not, where it is still popular as a speedball component. But down there, it was always known as a horse tranquilizer. Unfortunately, word about its potency got out. Now, heroin started getting cut with fentanyl because fentanyl is so much stronger than heroin that dealers didn't have to put out as much product, but still could make the profit. So it was a win for the dealers. The problem is, once you get fentanyl a little too much, you OD. It doesn't take much fentanyl to overdose. So they had to be kind of careful with it if they cared about their customers. Of course, we're talking about dealers, so they didn't care, but they did want customers. You don't want to kill your customers off. When xylazine came out, it is 2 to 40 times stronger than fentanyl. So it was a dealer's dream. They started shaking the xylazine into the fentanyl. And people either loved it or hated it. Not all addicts like it. And why? Because it blacks you out and it cycles you. It extends the high, but the problem is it also can cause some people to just black out for hours. And in those blackouts, they can be assaulted, they could be killed, they're robbed, they're beaten, whatever. Now, we've noticed with Trish how her nods used to last, a few minutes, and then it was done, and Trish was Trish. About December, I started noticing the nods were about 8 minutes in length. I started timing them, and then there would be a 10 to 15 minute period of Trish being Trish. And then all of a sudden another nod would come on, but Trish hadn't left the camera. And last month, I even said to you guys, wait, what's going on here? Trish keeps nodding out every 15, 20 minutes, and I counted 6 times. And I thought, what's happening here? Either Trish is going during one of the pauses and doing more, or Trish got herself some xylazine cut Fenty. And that's exactly what it is. The problem is not being an opiate. When people OD from anything cut with xylazine, Narcan won't work. Narcan has trouble working with fentanyl alone. Where you have a patient that has a heroin, straight 100% heroin overdose. You hit them with Narcan, they come up. Might take 2. Once fentanyl entered the picture, it took 2, 3, 4. And unfortunately with xylazine, it's not an opiate. So you can cause the person to opiate withdraw, but they're still xylazine ODing because they're still sedated by the anesthetic. Now, for the addicts that like the extended feeling of the high by the xylazine being added into their fentanyl, it causes a bigger problem. Xylazine causes these sores, and they don't know exactly why. There's two camps. One is there's an acidity to it, and generally people report that when they inject it, they feel a burn. When they've done tests on it, they have found it is a bit more acidic. Not exponentially, but it is a bit more acidic. So it's not a surefire excuse. The other camp believes it's because of the vasoconstriction xylazine creates. Remember when I said it failed human testing in the 50s because it lowered blood pressure, lowered heart rate, made you too sedated? The problem is the effect on the cardiovascular system is that it constricts your veins, and the further you go from the heart, the more constricted blood flow becomes. And then combined with some other mechanism, the sores come out. And the blood isn't able to get those wound fighting cells to a sore. So then it compounds into a bigger and bigger sore. You add to that addicts tend to not be hygienic for the most part and may not have the best living conditions. They may be homeless on the street and dirt's everywhere. And so then you get infections. The problem with that is it's not always at the injection site. If you smoke anything laced with xylazine, if you ingest it, the sores come out. It almost seems like it has to be both camps put together because it's traveling through the body, but landing generally in the appendages, in your arms and legs. You do see it, though, other places, but generally it begins on arms and legs, and it prefers to be in those places. Addicts are reporting that the withdrawal from any xylazine is horrific. If you thought heroin or fentanyl was bad, it is a million times worse. Most report it takes 4 weeks before they feel normal again and can do daily chores, just daily existence in a normal fashion. And that's pretty bad. So most are very scared to ever go into withdrawal, which again compounds the problems with the wounds. People don't want to go into the ER because they don't want to be admitted and not have access to it and start to go into withdrawal. Unfortunately, these wounds become extremely dangerous, and it can lead to osteomyelitis or an infection in the bone and start eating your bones away. Any injectable substance, illicit substance, but especially xylazine, loves to go for the heart. So you see a lot of endocarditis, and you see a lot of bacteremia or sepsis. It just floats around in your blood, and you're just a walking bag of infection. Most people go into the ER and they will fight you tooth and nail and AMA out of the ER after the wounds are treated. Doctors are used to that. Some hospitals and some doctors have found protocols to lessen the symptoms of withdrawal, but not all states allow it. Yes, they have to be given high levels of narcotics. To the point, one case study I read in Miami, the gal was put in the hospital on IV antibiotics. She was put on the strongest fentanyl patch they could find, and then she had a morphine PCA in her hand. And if you don't know what a PCA is, it's an IV pole that is set on a timer, and you control when it injects you. Generally, they're set every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes. Some are set at every hour. It didn't say what hers was set at, but I would assume she was getting a couple milligrams of morphine probably every 15 minutes, if not every 10, because her usage was that high. Unfortunately, in that case study, it's this gal. She came in a second time. They treated these wounds again. They wanted to admit her again. She said she would leave on a new antibiotic and she would take it, and she never returned, and they never saw her again. But the problem is, not all states are addict friendly. Many states have in place their own opiate rules. And yes, there are federal guidelines, but there are also state guidelines. And some states are just jerks about it. I don't even understand how a Hippocratic oath could make a guideline like this. If you see somebody with bone exposed and they're being eaten away by these wounds, yes, they are an addict. Yes, that is on them for starting to use drugs. But at what point do you not allow them treatment for these wounds and let them walk out the door, when you could have given them something to at least make them comfortable so they could get treatment and heal up? And yeah, they're going to go out and do it again, but so do all non-compliant patients. Danny's non-compliant. I'm going to take my Strattera. I don't care what the doctor says. Let me bleed out, which wouldn't happen, but, non-compliant patients are just a daily thing you get used to. So you have to weigh the bigger evil. To me, these sores are the bigger evil. But I guess some doctors can just turn away from looking at, a bone exposed from an infection and say, no, I'm not giving you those kinds of levels of narcotics. Leave. And my opinion. So in 2023, Philadelphia started seeing a lowering of xylazine, but they saw that Philadelphia had become a hub for transport of xylazine to other states, and they couldn't quite put their finger on it. And then a recovery center was the one who went to the state and said, hey, we know why. Because the feds take addicts from Puerto Rico into rehabs in Philadelphia and rehabilitate them, and the families move up to be supportive, but in those families are also people wanting to make some money. And generally we know that not one trip to rehab works. So the addict comes out and starts using again and says, hey, I got this great stuff. And so xylazine is a hub out of Philadelphia in 2023. So Pennsylvania puts out a warning sheet. And this is what it looked like. I believe they're still using it, but it tells addicts what to look for, how the sores start, where they go, and what can happen to you, and how you can try and take care of yourself, list of resources, tips on how to keep things clean and manageable, etc., which was kind of a nice deal. Not all states do this. Slowly but surely, xylazine has made it to the West Coast. Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, LA, Bakersfield, Stockton, Salem, Tacoma, Olympia, all have problems with it. The smaller towns, not so much. For us in the smaller towns, fentanyl is the big problem because we have fentanyl in weed. We're the weed capital. And unfortunately, they throw fentanyl in it. We had 2 years ago 3 18-year-old boys who went out on the street, bought some weed. I think they bought a gram of weed, and they were going to party one weekend, and all 3 were found dead 3 days later. It's a problem here. Xylazine, not so much. Now here's what's strange. Now we're in 2025, and the East Coast, even though xylazine is just kind of becoming more prevalent here on the West Coast, on the East Coast, it's decreasing. Kind of weird. They're seeing it drop, and that's because there's an even worse evil out there that has just been introduced. They found it last year in the summer, I believe, or April. I'll have to look it up. We'll have a TED Talk on it because if you're in the East Coast, you better look out for it. It's a drug that nurses, medics, doctors, respiratory therapists, CNAs probably have all seen. And it's now being introduced, and it's worse than xylazine. It's unbelievable how many adulterants there are. Xylazine is only one. I think I counted 24. That was 2 weeks ago. There's probably more by now. It's not a laughing matter. I'm just chuckling because I can't keep up. It's kind of like computer technology. By the time I find it, it's obsolete. My number is obsolete. We'll go over adulterants, but first we'll have a TED Talk on Dex, because Dex is the next coming epidemic, and it's gaining by leaps and bounds in the East Coast. And everything follows the same pathway. From the Northeast, down the East Coast, to the Southeast, across to Texas, up the Midwest, then across to Colorado, down to New Mexico and Arizona, and then up the West Coast. It follows freeways. And unfortunately, I live at the crossroads of 2 major freeways. So when we see things like xylazine and large doses of fentanyl, large amounts, it is trafficked. We just had a bust with 10 pounds of meth. I mean, we make it here, and in there was 2 pounds of fentanyl, and it was being transported through, and they got pulled over on a stop. Wherever there's freeways, major freeways, you'll find it. Now, what Trish plans to do with these arms and legs that are open wounds, I don't know. She's been bad-mouthing the VA and their treatment of her wounds, even though they were appropriate in care, and it wasn't their doing that they've come back. Trish is blaming it on the VA. They didn't give her enough antibiotics. They didn't treat her well enough. They didn't fix her tooth. Like that has shit to do with it. For somebody who exists on $6,000 a month from the military, that's a shitty thing to say when it was your doing that created this. But that's how you know somebody has xylazine in their drugs. This is also why you don't accept food made from someone's home unless you know them very well and you know their kitchen. And it's sad because there's people that really care about Trish, and Trish ignored all of these people talking in here in the chat. Ignored or just blew them off. And that's sad. These people need to realize Trish doesn't care. Doesn't care. And wants to tell you that they're drug free. Drug free. Not drug free. Doing a good performance, but not drug free. So again, it's not an opiate, so it can't be reversed with Narcan. It is a veterinary anesthetic, developed in the 50s, failed human trials, 2 to 40 times stronger than fentanyl, which is 100 times stronger than heroin. It's cut in to extend effects of drugs. So if you're taking meth that's cut with xylazine, you'll be spun for twice as long. Causes severe skin ulcerations at the injection site or elsewhere, and they don't know why. The two camps are it's either very acidic or the vasoconstriction. It's not FDA approved for humans. There are test strips available for people in EMS or law enforcement. The problem is they're very spotty at efficacy. Addicts report that sometimes they give false positives, false negatives, so they don't really rely on them yet. They were rush created, so they haven't fine-tuned it. Withdrawal is horrific. Patients take up to 4 weeks in order to start feeling better. First detected in 2006 in Maryland and Ohio, and it came from Puerto Rico, where it is still popular. And by 2023, it was found in over 90% of seized fentanyl and also in hospital patients. Not all ODs. Some of them came in for wound care. The wounds often require surgical debridement, antibiotics, and topical wound care, as we saw with Trish. It often will lead to sepsis or bacteremia, endocarditis, and osteomyelitis. So it's going to eat your bones away. It's going to fuck your heart up. You could go into heart failure immediately. You could have valves that go bad immediately just from one hit of tranq. Many patients AMA due to the withdrawal symptoms and insufficient narcotic therapy in-house. That should change, but that's a state thing. It's cut and mixed now into every substance. And I know a lot of people were wondering about the Fenty fold. Okay, so Fenty folds, if you don't know, look like this. There's a million. All you have to do in TikTok is put Fenty fold into, look at this. This is great. Put it into the search in TikTok and you'll get a million of these. And yes, they can come out of it. And they do get this hunch on their backs from doing it so much. Kind of looks like Riri when she was in Trish's kitchen, huh? You imagine to their prenatal appointment. Kid would be taken, so this guy's famous now. Cashier just doing nothing. That's almost a work of art. And nobody, look at everyone in the background. in a car. This one's a perfect example of what I was saying about Trish, how it would cycle. There will be periods where they're fine, and then it cycles through again. They do it so much, though, they get kyphosis in their spine. Oh, that poor dog. Oh, this guy, he does it in front of his baby. Look at this little girl who almost goes in the street. She's crying for her dad. Crying. And luckily this nice man goes out there. Dad's going to just topple into traffic. And the little girl's scared. And then he doesn't realize it because his muscles are cramping. He starts grabbing hold of the little girl and she starts screaming because he's hurting her. He doesn't realize it. He's got her from behind. So Nurse J rants. Nurse J rants did, I think, the best. I know there's a lot of doctors who explain it, but I liked this guy's explanation best.
Wake up, hey, wait. What in the actual flying fuck am I looking at? Bro is posted up like a dead Sims character. Spine said, nah, and life just exited the chat. This ain't high. This ain't weed. This is fentanyl folding the human body like a fucking lawn chair. This is what dying in slow motion looks like. And before you say, he just tired? No, dumbass. This is opioid-induced CNS depression. His brainstem is on fucking vacation, breathing. Optional at this point. It's your fucking crash course. Fentanyl shuts your shit down before you even finish the hit. That fold? That may be CNS shutting down. Here's how to check. See someone slumped like this? Yell, bitch. Shake them. Rub the sternum like you're trying to piss them off. Still nothing? Narcan them now. Call 911. Don't just film like it's fucking National Geographic. Narcan won't kill them, but fentanyl will fuck their shit forever. Carry that shit. Use that shit. I'm Nurse J, here to call out stupidity and stop people from dying because you were too busy filming for clout. Now get your shit together, people. Fuck me, man.
Wake up. I agree. Always carry it. This is what it looks like. Your insurance will pay for it. This one is still sealed. We can break it. It's fine. It's generally we carry them without. It's a nasal. Okay? You don't have to know somebody to help them. You just do this like it's Flonase and squirt it in up their nose and then back off in a hurry because they're going to come out. You get 2 in each box, and I have 2 boxes because nowadays, like I said, it takes 2 to 4 of these to bring someone back. Everybody, regardless of who you are, should carry them. That's how bad this has gotten, okay? And when he talks about a sternal rubs are done a specific way to be effective. Do this with your hand, okay? And then you put that knuckle down like that on their sternum, and you rub up and down the middle of the sternum as hard as possible. It will wake the dead. He's right. You're not tired. We've heard every excuse for Trish. Oh, Trish, you're just tired. Go take a nap. No, Trish's eyes are rolling back. And he's wobbling, she's wobbling and weaving and falling over because of the drugs. And these people are enabling it. What has our world come to? That's your fentanyl and Xylazine update, TED Talk, and next we're going to do Dex, because we're all going to start seeing Dex overdoses on our streets. That's coming.